All right. So I broke my shoulder snowboarding this weekend. It was really
I
great,
see the nub swing.
Yeah. So I just fucking man, it wasn't even a hard crash. It was like at the end of the day, night. It was nighttime, and like I was getting ready to leave, and I'd stayed longer than I probably should have already. Like my legs were on
Clearly.
fire. Yeah, exactly. And so like we're going to do our last run, and my buddy drops his fucking goggles off the lift. It's like fuck. So we have to go down the face of the mountain. Me and him go and grab the goggles while my buddy and his family go like to the other side of the mountain. And we get down to the bottom, like, just do one more, like that doesn't count. You're just fucking grabbing goggles. So I was like, all right, one more. And I'd been snowboarding with my buddy and his wife and kids for the whole day at that point. And like we were just kind of going slow. And, me and my buddy got loose a couple times and went fast a little bit, but for the most part we're just taking it easy. And then my buddy John hooks up with us and he's hauling ass, so like towards the end I'm like fucking hauling ass towards the bottom, and I just hit a slip, hit a really icy stretch and went down right into my elbow, and I heard some gnarly noises immediately, and I knew I was fucked up right away. And I just got up and I was like, I'm hurt, I'm out of here, and I just left. And my plan was is like as I'm snowboarding down, I'm like, don't fall, don't fall. And then I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna drive myself down, but I'm gonna stop by the EMT place and get a sling just to make my life a bit easier. So I go in there, and by the time I get the sling on, they've got me sitting down and they cut my jacket off. Brand new $250 jacket gets cut off. It's fucking great. And by the time they had the sling on, I could not move anymore, and it was like, fuck, now I gotta wait. It was going to take 2 hours for a fucking ambulance to get there. So I ended up just having my buddy drive me down in my car. But anyways, while we're in there, there's this guy who's like fucking, I watch a lot of like body cam videos, and on Twitter, there's a lot of great sites where like these guys will catfish pedophiles and then beat the shit out of them. They'll
Yeah.
give them like the option. You want 3 slaps from each of us, or you want us to call the cops? And like the look of somebody with no soul behind their eyes. You
Yeah.
just see those eyes and you go, oh, they've got that, what Brian Stelter eyes, like all those weirdos just got those eyes. And this guy had those eyes. And they're like asking him a bunch of questions. And I'm like, all right, he's definitely like has a concussion or something, but that's not a concussion what I'm seeing. There's something going on
Yeah.
here. So I'm sitting in there, I'm giving information to this kid who's, taking down on the report and everything they have to do. And they start asking this guy questions. They go, do you know who the president of the United States is? And he goes, unfortunately, yes. And I'm like, okay, who is it? Donald Trump. And it was like he was fucking saying, like, it was like he was saying a swear word or something. It was hilarious. And I look over to the guy next to me and I go, hey man, make America great again. He's like, oh, absolutely. We just kind of laughed for a second. And as he's leaving, somebody's like asking him questions about his job or something like that. And he goes, oh yeah, I worked for Disney for 9 years. I got it
There
right.
you go.
The motherfucker
Yep.
was a pedophile.
Yeah.
What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future-free state of Greater Idaho, where I got winged this weekend. I am the one-armed madman. And back with me from Music City, America, we've got the great Daniel Steele. Dan,
What's happening,
we're
everybody?
here. I didn't think we were going to do this, and earlier today I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just roll. I'm rolling with I got the fucking bathrobe on because I'm stuck in the same fucking clothes that I've had on since Friday.
You look like you're about to collect some money from your host, so.
Yeah. Pimping it easy, motherfucker. Well, shit, man. It's been another fun week in the reality show of America. It's like we're living in a fucking reality show at this point, Dan. It's something.
It's pretty fucking insane. Just like there's so much happening so fast that it's hard to comment on pretty much anything.
I know.
And it's like it feels like things are moving strategically on Trump's side. But then I was thinking about this while I was eating dinner. Like the American people voted against whatever the Democratic Party was offering, but nobody lost their job.
Yeah.
And like, I guess like, because you're always gonna have always blue donors. Does that mean that just like this whole shtick is gonna go on forever? Like, I I don't know. Like, they found a fucking listening device in Trump's desk.
Yeah.
You have judges. I didn't get through all of your notes, but
It's
you have
okay.
judges blocking executive orders. You have congressmen or senators asking if the U.S. Marshals will arrest Trump if he doesn't
Really?
follow them.
I didn't hear that one. Dude,
Oh
I've
yeah, it
been
was like
like
a
I was out for like one day. Friday I was completely gone. And like
yeah.
by Saturday it's like what the fuck happened? I don't know where are we at this point? Like I'm lost again.
Yeah, it's just like, well, I guess let's just go through for the top with the notes.
One thing I will say though, based on like what you were saying, is that this is the first time in my lifetime, at least in a time that I can remember, where the Republicans have been on offense. Usually they're
Yeah,
just a defensive organization where they're just reacting to whatever the Democrats do. And it seems
yeah.
like you're right. Like they have some strategic thinking in place and they're actually like thinking about what they're doing and going on offense and making the Democrats react.
I forget what talk show it was. I saw a clip. Jeffries, the Senate Minority Leader, um, whoever was like, "Hey, you guys should just stop talking about January 6th.
I
Like
heard that.
the public's past that." And then he just went on and ran about January 6th. You maybe sent it to me, but
No,
it's
I
like
didn't,
it's
but
the
I wanted to
same.
hear after it ended because the clip that I saw didn't go back to Stephen A. Smith. It just went
Oh
like you
yeah, it
said,
was Stephen A. Smith,
he just did
which
a
is
sob story for 10 minutes after Stephen A. Smith told him to shut the fuck up about it.
interesting because they're talking about he might run
Oh,
on the
really?
Democrat side.
He'd be a great pick for them. He's
He
really
really would.
good. He would, yes.
He's articulate.
Yes.
He's great, and like he has fresh thoughts, and like some of his thoughts I agree with. You know,
Yeah.
instead of just like because like
He
the
seems to
Democratic
be
Party's just so far off the rails.
he seems to be a bit of a free thinker,
Yeah.
which
Do you
could
see it
also get him
in?
into some trouble in the Democratic Party, right?
Well, it needs like this whole like if you care about at least a two-party system and not just having Republicans run shit for the next 20 years, something has to change.
Yeah.
The fucking governor of Wisconsin is changing in their like all of their state wording, changing the word mother to inseminated person.
Oh, that sounds dirty.
Yeah.
Ew.
And just like they're still going with that whole thing that everybody's like, you know what?
This isn't gonna
I
work.
might normally be a Democrat, but like I just can't keep voting for this insanity. And but they're just going.
Wow. They just have no it's like their handlers just disappeared and they lost all the notes and they just don't know what to do, so they're just repeating old notes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it's like, hey, we used to get a good running order every week. They give us our bullet points of this, and now those bullet points just stopped. And instead of thinking for ourselves, we'll just grab an old sheet and go
Yeah.
back to the
Yep.
old sheet, which is just like you said, it's not going to work.
Russian asset,
Yeah.
racist, blah. Like, and they blew the like. We'll get into the Ukraine deal. I don't know if you saw it, but they got a deal done
Oh, I did not
on
know.
Ukraine.
I was just
We'll get
listening to
into that.
Pierce Morgan about it.
I want to do the Bolton clip
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
just talk about Ukraine and decoupling. But um, it just like they blew the whole Putin puppet thing 8 years ago. So even if Trump was making a bad deal for the United States, calling him a Putin puppet now, like everybody's like, no, that's just not true. It's been proven over and
Yeah.
over again. Can you get some new words, please?
Yeah. Well, we started out last week's show checking in on Joy Reid. I think we should probably check in on her again, don't you
Oh
think?
yeah.
My show had value
No, it didn't.
and that I'm sorry. That that what I was doing had value. Had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I think this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. and that it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well.
up,
And so what I
Karen.
will just
Fuck
say
off.
is that in the end, thank you. Where I
gotta
land
stop
is
laughing. Oh my gosh, that's too much. I need to put that chirp on my soundboard so I can just chirp in every once in a while on these people. If they get boring, I can just give them a chirp.
I think somebody put that in there, but
Oh, they did.
it was
Absolutely.
just too good.
Absolutely. It's fucking great. That was
There
so
was
smart.
there's a work from home IRS employee that got fired, and they brought him on CNN or something to cry, but like they did it from his place, and he was chirping.
God, that's hilarious. Fucking chirping ain't easy. Dude, it's so funny that she's like crying, and my show had value. No, it didn't. It didn't have any value at all. The only reason your show is still on the air is because you're running ads for Big Pharma. Nobody's watching you. Your fucking numbers are in the gutter.
I guess I guess that might be a good place for the Democratic Party to start.
Yeah,
If
from
all
the
of the
bottom.
propagandists are just getting fired because there's no money in it, maybe they'll get a different message. I don't know. But I did see recently that Murdoch's kids opposed him turning the empire, like they lost in probate court,
Yeah.
turning the empire over to the conservative son. So there's a very good chance that Fox News becomes left, like far left, which would be interesting. Just like
Yeah.
shut them all down.
It doesn't matter at this point. Like Fox is not doing anything for anybody except, there's a couple people making good paychecks.
Yeah.
But essentially, like, they're not helping anybody. Donald Trump does not need them. You know, and like it's been kind of hard to find what his actual approval rating is, but as far as like just being out and about in the world, approval rating is very fucking high.
Yeah. It's like surprising. Like you saw people talking, the talking points, human rights, but like just generally, either people are super polarized, I hate him, he's racist, convicted 34 times, or they just don't talk about him, or people like surprisingly send me like pro-Trump shit. I'm like, well, didn't see that coming from you, buddy, but
yeah. And it's like that fucking pedo at the ski resort. Guys like him are gonna die. They're dying off. It's a dying breed, and I think that like a good portion of millennials and Gen Zers are freedom lovers. Like I think that this authoritarian mindset is absolutely taken hold of Gen Z, but not all of it, And I think the ones that are affected most by it in Gen Z aren't going to reproduce. So, whatever, it's 30 years and then your stupid ideas die with you.
Yeah. They call people Nazis for not supporting gender affirming care.
Yeah.
Which I think is really funny because the Nazi thing to do was to castrate the mentally disabled.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so I would say
and here's the problem. I'm going to go out of order on this one because this is where we run into an issue. These fucking monsters think that they can just go on CNN or go in front of a camera and lie and have it work like it's always worked. And then this happens in public.
Hey, Trump, Dominicans actually hate your guts, right? Because you're a scumbag. You know that, right? Yeah. You ruined New York. You're a loser. You're a loser, buddy. You're a loser.
And that must freak them out so much because they're going on, we're telling you that this guy's a Nazi and he's stealing your money and blah, blah, blah. But then I go out in public and then this happens to me. And it must be a weird position for these fuckers to be in because they've been able to lie with impunity for their entire careers. And now everything has changed. Huh?
I thought you were gonna play a different clip about lying with impunity.
I'm sure we've got a couple more of them in here, right?
Yeah.
Let's do that one. Same thing. Here we go. Here is John McCain not John McCain, Jesus, Eye Patch McCain. It's Eye Patch Crenshaw on a hot mic. Here he is.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot
on Twitter.
If I ever meet him, I'll fucking kill him.
He's the worst person. He's the worst person ever.
And then MTG said, "Hey, Dan Crenshaw, did you threaten to kill Tucker Carlson?" He said, "LOL, no." And then he got community noted right
But dude,
away. Like, yes, you did.
But the community note disappeared. It's not there anymore.
No, the original post disappeared.
I don't think so. I found it because I swear I was looking through it. I'm like, what the fuck happened to the community note? And I had to go back into my text messages and redirect it back to Twitter, and it's still there. The community note's just not there anymore, which is weird.
I wonder if it has a note pen. I'm a note person. I actually got my first note published a couple weeks ago, which was pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Somebody posted, for the first time ever, they're greasing the polls in New Orleans in anticipation of Philadelphia fans. I was like, no, they do this every year right before Mardi Gras. Here's the 52nd annual pole greasing party. And
so I just sent you a link to that tweet. Check it and see if it's doing the same thing for you.
Oh, it says rate community notes.
Because I opened it up again and there's nothing. Just a tweet.
Well, Elon posted last week or so that community notes are getting this is saying that the video was dubbed.
I don't know. It doesn't say anything for me. It's just a normal tweet.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking at the notes. Like,
yeah.
But Elon said recently that there's a real problem with community notes where like there's groups, which I think those two the twin gay brother guys that own all the porn sites
that definitely
have like
each other.
Groups with thousands of people, and it's like truth tellers on X or something, and they just go and weaponize the community notes because you only need like a couple hundred.
They've been doing it for Wikipedia for years.
Yeah,
like it's like a capture and control system.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So we had another big announcement on this weekend, or you had to send in. Give us 5 bullet points on what you've done this week, and as you can imagine, everybody happily just poured in the emails, just poured in more than 5 bullet points. Everybody was just giving them all kinds of stuff. We do so much work you couldn't even capture it all in one email. Here's an example.
Just tell us about this email and what it was like receiving it and what you all have talked about after getting it.
Sure. I got this email Saturday afternoon, about 3 p.m., and I felt absolutely infuriated getting this email with a demand within 48 hours to provide a response on what I did within the last week or face termination. This is clearly an attempt from Elon Musk to harass and bully and intimidate the federal workforce, which is part of his broader plan to gut the federal workforce and privatize public sector services to ensure that corporations like his own can get more profit. And that makes me really angry, and my coworkers as well.
That makes me really angry, and my coworkers as well. Somebody gave her a script there. That was not an actual reaction from this woman.
Well, I guess we haven't talked in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I knew that there was waste and fraud in the government. I didn't know there was this much waste and fraud in the government.
Me neither.
Like, there's people on Social Security that are 130 years old in our country.
300 years old.
130 years older than our country.
Yeah. Sorry.
Or something like that.
That's what I get for talking over you.
Then there's like 90 million more Social Security numbers than Americans in the system. And like just that amount of fraud. And then one of Elon's explanations on why this was important was there's a lot of he has a suspicion that there's a lot of people just collecting paychecks that aren't alive and don't work for the government.
Yep.
Like, so the counter, or like, I don't know how bad the tech is at the federal government, but I can log in, and this is through Google. I know the government doesn't use Google for their mail service, but I can log in and see the last time somebody logged in to check their email for everybody that I work with the organizations and companies I'm starting.
As you should be able to.
The case.
Like you have to be able to do that to monitor your workforce.
And one thing, Google, since I know you're listening,
Yeah.
When people check through mobile, it shows them as not logging in. Just count the mobile downloads, bro. Be a lot easier.
You know, like the fucking balls on this woman too to just stand up there and like the nerve. Who's this fucking guy? He was just appointed by the president. Why does he get to tell me what to do? I don't have to listen to him. And it's just
then
like,
you get all of the, like all of the people that always, the mockingbirds that always have the same script from the left about how this is wrong.
Yeah.
And I saw so many people screenshot tweets reply to them. The same people that were like, you don't deserve a job if you don't get the vaccine.
Yeah.
Like the same people who
Yeah.
are screaming, you don't deserve a job if you don't get the vaccine are like, this is a threat to the constitutional crisis. You can't do this. Like,
he's harassing
yeah, bro,
me.
they work. Have you looked at the organization chart of this government? Because almost everybody reports to the executive branch. The executive branch should, I know it's crazy we haven't had anybody leading the executive branch in public in 4 years, but the executive branch is able to take these actions. There's fucking nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
And she said, Elon's gutting it. Please do.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yep. And that's kind of
80%.
been my frustration is I think they have to all go because, you know, Mike Benz made a great point on Joe Rogan about this. It's like mercury pooling together at some point. Like, you know, you can get rid of this and get rid of that, but it's going to pool back together at some point and turn into, you know, it's so frustrating, like listening to him on Rogan talk for 3 hours about how disgusting like all this waste, abuse, and fraud is, and just a slush fund for the intelligence industries. And then he goes, oh yeah, this is going to take 50 years to remake this. And it's like, no, man, like it has to go. You have to abolish this. We can't just reform the CIA. It's not going to work. It's either going to go back to what it was doing or it has to go completely.
And I just don't have 3 hours to watch podcasts anymore, so I didn't watch all of them on Rogan, but it was either there or somewhere else. He was like, but we really need these services from the deep state.
It's the same thing,
Like,
dude.
what the fuck?
Yeah, he's
what
3 hours about how evil all of this shit is, and then but we have to keep these institutions. Like, what the fuck? And then it makes
he talks about the pencil, like the Ron Paul pencil thing. He's like, well, we need to make the pencils. So we got to be able to influence foreign governments. No, we don't. Like, it's coercement. That's like the worst possible way to do things.
Yeah.
And if we can't get fucking rubber for an eraser, nobody uses erasers anymore anyway.
Yeah, no shit. Nobody uses pencils. Nobody uses pencils, period. Here's another fun video.
Is this another Doge?
Yeah, here we go. Doge on CNN.
Let's go.
Push and pull of when a Republican is the president. There's an attempt when a Republican's in the White House, Donald Trump or any other Republican, to argue that these federal agencies, federal workers, the bureaucracy, sort of can act independently or autonomously from the political leadership of the country. And that's what's happening here. That's why everyone is melting down. That's why the lady came on CNN today. They don't want to answer the email because they don't want to answer to the president. And the message from Trump and Musk is we have political leaders in this country and you got to answer to it.
I'm not following you. Are you you suggesting that it's only when Republicans are president that
100%.
agencies express independence? Well, you know that that's not true.
No, I know it is 100% true that the bureaucity is not aligned with, mostly not aligned with Republicans.
For a reason. There are career civil servants who work with one president
among Democrats
and another, and do so for the Constitution and the love of country.
Hold on a second.
Oh, yeah, they're just doing it for Constitution and love of country. Yeah. Come on, lady, give me a fucking break. Did that last woman that we just listened to, did it sound like she was doing what she was doing for love of the Constitution? No, she just wants her fucking paycheck, and she wants to sit on her ass all day in her fucking pajamas and not do a goddamn thing.
And I don't know who was speaking.
That was Scott Jennings.
But to Scott Jennings' point about the difference between Republicans and Democrats, Bill Clinton fired 240,000 government workers in an effort to downsize the government.
That's a lot.
It's not enough, but it's a lot. I'd be happy at like
not enough.
2 or 3 million.
Yeah.
But it's like very one-sided. Like, this is not the first time that we've tried to downsize the government. And dude, I would say pre 9/11 was probably the most harmonious time that I've been alive.
All right.
You had
I can't.
The Democrat
I can't
in
argue with that.
office, GOP controlling Congress, bills were getting passed, government was shrinking. We had a balanced budget. We had the .com, like that's when the internet took off. Like we had the bubble happen, which happens in all of these things. But yeah, to Scott Jennings' point, like this shit happens all the time. And like Biden defied the Supreme Court by giving those the student loan stuff.
Yeah.
Did anybody go to Congress and ask if the U.S. Marshals were going to pick up Biden? No.
Nope. All right, I've got one more CNN freak out here. They just I don't know why they let Scott Jennings on the show still, but it's going to be over soon. So let's enjoy it.
I think they have a directive to go more right, just because the world's going more right.
Yeah, but there's people that are just on the naughty list that they're never going to have on again. But we can enjoy it while it lasts, anyways, right?
If I may address one issue, you just denigrated Bongino's law enforcement credentials. He was a cop and a Secret Service agent. You denigrated his academic credentials. He has a master's degree.
Just because he was a police officer doesn't make him qualified to run a 38,000 person, $11 billion budget agency, just like Pete Hegseth being a National Guardsman or whatever he was, doesn't either. Thank you for your service.
The confidence and the pleasure of the president.
And I'm sorry that terrible.
And I'm sorry that you are not yet over the outcome of the election.
No, because look at what's happening to our country. And I'll never be over it, Scott. This is dismantling our democracy in front of our eyes, and you guys are okay with it.
We're not a democracy.
We're dismantling our democracy in front of our eyes.
Secretary of Transportation, you had the guy who was stealing luggage. I mean, I think anyone who's defending at any point defending the Biden administration.
But this is the FBI.
So?
Correct.
Yeah, this is someone who has been law enforcement for many years.
Does Dan Bongino have the qualifications to be the second person in charge of the FBI?
Yes, he has law enforcement, he has academic, and again, let me just stress this. I've mentioned this before.
So when you stack up his credentials
serve at the pleasure of the president. That's the political appointment.
I know that is the answer to every question, is that Donald Trump wants it, so therefore it is good.
For political appointments, yes.
When we look at, we're talking about people who are qualified and not, and you look at his resume and compare it to Republican and Democrat nominees for that same position.
Who've done nothing.
Is he qualified?
I mean, first of all, I'm not sure all the people that have been appointed in the past have covered themselves in glory. And some of them have done a terrible job and gotten in lots of trouble.
Look,
and this is a reform-minded administration. They got outsiders.
Why is Comey so much more qualified to run the FBI than Dan Bongino?
And first off, don't like the guy. He's a cop.
I don't like him either. Fuck the police. Like I don't like this guy. I'm never gonna fucking defend him.
These people have me arguing for a cop right now.
I know.
It's so stupid.
It makes me feel dirty.
Yeah. I don't want to defend that guy.
No, I know. Cop. But it's like, dude, it's funny how they're all into like race and DEI and all that bullshit until it actually like hits them in the face. And then they're the most racist pieces of shit you can find. Yeah. Like I don't understand why this guy is not qualified. I don't understand why any of these guys aren't qualified. It seems like are no different than any of the other people running these things. They just have different political alignments.
Yeah, I don't know who Biden appointed.
I don't either.
Really don't care.
I mean, Comey ran it for a while, so like that's an easy one. All Comey was a career politician that worked in the Justice Department. He didn't do any what makes him so much more qualified to run it. Like he's never had a real job. At least Bongino had an actual job outside of working for the government. He runs a podcast, which is, I guess you could call that a business. And
he's more like an empire.
And he's very successful. So like, I don't understand why he's not qualified.
Hey, let's talk about Mayor Pete.
Yeah.
What was his qualified? What qualified him to come and tell us that bridges are raising?
Yeah, he's ridden in a car before.
Showing up to job sites breastfeeding a child
in like the gayest fucking outfits you could ever imagine. Like, it's like,
I mean, he is gay.
He's gay, but you don't have to fucking scream it at the top of your lungs all the time. Like maybe get a pair of boots that have been worn a couple times instead of. DeSantis did the same thing. He showed up at a hurricane in white boots that have never been worn before, and it's like, come on, dude. At least like.
Oh, meatball.
Get yourself some Danners or something and wear them a little bit so you don't look like an idiot next time.
Or what about the I don't know their pronouns, the person who is in charge of our nuclear.
Yeah, the suitcase
steal
guy.
People's fucking bag.
Yeah, the fucking luggage guy.
I just don't see how
any
of
what
these
it
people
is?
get off anywhere.
he's experienced because the nuclear football is like a suitcase. So he's just practicing in case he's got to snag that thing from Trump at some point.
And just making sure it doesn't get stolen by the Russians.
Right. Speaking of the Russians, let's check in with Captain fucking Mustache Ride.
Well, I think it's Macron trying to maintain his own position without pushing Trump over the edge and losing any chance of bringing Trump back to reality. I don't think that Macron will succeed. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, is coming this week as well. I don't think he'll succeed. I think we are now close to as close to Russia as an ally we've ever been in a hostile environment. It's a huge embarrassment. But I think most significant of all is that vote in the UN today was a clear marker. We are on the path out of NATO. Trump has already done enormous damage to the NATO alliance. Almost every time he talks about Ukraine, he does more. But that vote, with all of our allies on one side supporting Ukraine and condemning Russia's unprovoked aggression against Ukraine, with us on the side of Russia and North Korea and countries like that, that shows the NATO alliance is badly split already. And it's at this point, you take too many more steps like that, the actual withdrawal is just a formality.
You know, I heard a great. Go ahead, you've got something.
We didn't talk. I was on last week. So Vance went over to Europe, and he just shit on the Germans for arresting people for talking on the internet, for sharing. Like, if you posted something and I retweeted or reposted it, they would kick in my door with firearms for hate speech. And then Vance was like, why would we prop up anybody that doesn't stand up for the same values that we have?
Basic human rights.
And we are NATO. We're fucking NATO. That's the beginning and end of it. Like, nobody's spending more money than us to defend these monsters that are locking their people up. There was 400 people in Russia last year that were arrested for posting online. There are 3,400 or close to in Great Britain that were arrested for posting online last year.
Wow. That's
There's
a lot of
10 people a day getting arrested for posting on the internet in Britain. Fuck them. You know who I want to be allies with? I want to be allies with the economic superpowers. What does Europe make other than bad decisions?
I was going to say that I heard a great take on Europe recently where the guy said, essentially, we've been bribing Europe with billions of dollars a year not to go to war with each other. And at some point, we're just going to have to pull our funding and let them fight it out. If that's what they really want to do is fight it out, go for it. But we're not going to sit here and supply you with weapons. We're not going to play this fucking game.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't care. You know what country I like? I like Romania. It's great.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they just had their legal election overturned by the EU because they're trying to put a NATO base super close to Russia in Romania. I mean, the place has a ton of problems, but I really enjoy it there. Would I ever live there? No. Europe, great place to visit. Great place to vacation. That's all we're doing is propping up some place that I care to go to vacation to. Otherwise, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
How many cars of ours do they import? None.
Yeah.
It just like what do they provide to us? Great place to like recipes, sure. They're all on ChatGPT now. I can cook in any fashion.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT will tell me exactly how to do it. You don't need your friends. Fuck off.
You know what's funny is like whenever the European riders come over here to race, they always ask like, what's the worst part about living in America? And they always say the food. And like, we're making big changes on food. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we've got this guy, RFK, he's in office and he's kind of big on this food thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what the American diet looks like 20 years from now.
So I was meeting with a couple of businesses. I won't get into details about them, but I was trying to connect them. One is like helping students get food, not because they're underprivileged or whatever, just like a way to get students farm fresh food. Mm-hmm. And you can't. They'd rather go to Kroger or wherever, whatever chain that
they'd rather poison
has
you
in your neighborhood. because it's all subsidized. There's no free market in farming at all. And they can get food for half the price and they don't care if it tastes better or if it's better for you. I found out the other day, so the way tomatoes, they're grown, they're picked green.
I know this.
And then they're shipped with like fucking something in the box to turn them red.
Yep.
So that's why tomatoes don't taste good anymore. You're eating a green tomato that was forced into puberty.
Yep. It's the same thing with strawberries. Like when you go to the store and your strawberries taste like water, it's because they show up in a warehouse green and then they pump that warehouse full of chemicals and force it to turn. It's like you're saying, it's like taking a little boy and chopping their fucking nuts off and pumping them full of hormones to make them do something that nature does not want them to do at this point.
Right. And so that one thing I really enjoyed about Romania was how, like, every morning, so everybody that I knew had an outdoor dining area with a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So every morning you'd walk out in the garden, you'd pick something fresh, you'd eat all the plates and everything were bright and colorful, and every meal was like a celebration of this wonderful food. Mm-hmm. I'd never experienced it until, I came to Nashville kind of seeking that out. Now I don't imagine living anywhere else unless they have, food access like this. But
yeah.
But I learned how to grow tomatoes, bro. I don't need to go to Romania.
Yeah. When me and my ex-wife took a trip to Maui one year, and we just went for like 2 weeks, and one night, like, we were both sober at this point. Like, neither one of us drank or did drugs or anything like that. And we went to dinner one night and kind of fucked around, and we're a little bit hungry afterwards. So we stopped by the store before we went to our our rental, and we bought a bunch of fruit. And I remember we just sat there and we ate all this just fucking delicious fruit, like pineapples and strawberries and all this crap. And I remember both of us were like, this is so good. And we had like a high almost because like you felt so good from eating this delicious fruit. And we both were like, we need to eat more fruit. Like, this is crazy that we had to come to a place like this to like get us to enjoy fruit again. And then we went back and we tried the fruit and it was shit. And we didn't know all of this shit back then. So we just kind of like, it just exited my mind and I never thought about it again until right now. But like, yeah, man, like it's really crazy when you have a garden or, like my garden puts out insane fucking tomatoes and cucumbers and strawberries, and you go and you try them at the store and it's like you're eating flavored water. It's like cucumber water or something. It's fucking criminal. Like that they would prefer children eat this frankenfood rather than like have delicious locally sourced food that like farmers would be happy to supply. I guarantee like all farms have to throw something away every year. Like it's just works out that way. You're going to have it. And they can't give away their food a lot of times. Like, you've got a garden. Like, so my neighbor is a cattle rancher and they ended up having to just get rid of the cattle because inflation went crazy. They couldn't afford the upkeep. They couldn't afford the food. They couldn't afford anything. And I would love to buy beef from my neighbor, but I can't. The fucking government will not let us do it, which is just, it's so evil.
Yeah. Well, one thing when you said you almost felt high from eating that fruit, this is something that I learned recently. Your serotonin levels are dictated by your gut health. There's a direct line from your gut to your serotonin. And if your gut's not in good shape, you're not going to have enough serotonin. And then you end up on fucking antidepressants.
Yep. I actually take a medication. It's a newer medication. Doesn't really work all that great, but I take it anyways. It's called Relistor. And what it does is so when you take opioids, all your opioid receptors get blocked and like all your serotonin, all that crap gets fucked with by opioids. And like you said, you have those receptors in your stomach. So what this pill does is turn on the opioid receptors in your stomach to kind of trick your stomach into thinking that you're not actually on opioids, which is an interesting idea, right? Like the idea of it, okay, like let's not turn the gut into a vat of chemicals. Let's try and make it act the way it's supposed to act without this thing that's fucking with it. But like I said, it doesn't work that great.
You're an edge case. Like you're an absolute edge,
for sure.
edge case of these things. And I'm speaking to the larger problem of what's it like 18% or something of Americans are on antidepressants or something like that.
Yep.
I bet, this is just a guess, I bet you could at least cut that in half if they ate fresh food.
Probably. I started on, so like, I didn't take antidepressants until probably 5 years ago or so. When they pulled me off of all of my pain medications, I got fucked up. Like, I was down to like 125 pounds, just like dying. And one of the things they ended up finding was an antidepressant that women don't like taking because one of the side effects is weight gain. And I was just having all kinds of problems eating at the time. And I ended up going on to that medication and then switching to an all beef diet and just doing ribeye steaks every night. And I went from like 125 pounds dying to being healthy within like 2 months.
Oh, that's great.
It was like that. And I haven't gone off the antidepressant because I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm doing better. So I kind of think it's probably best that I stay on it. But, you know, there are some things that like, have you heard of methylene blue?
You sent me something about this. I saw the first time I heard about it was somebody took a picture of RFK on a flight, pouring it into a drink.
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially it's like, it helps your brain. It's a serotonin deal. Like it's interestingly, when they first started studying it, somebody gave it to rats. And then when they dissected the rats, their brain was blue from it. So they're like, oh, this clearly works in the brain. And I don't know, like I'm always looking for stuff to help with the brain. Like I have really bad memory problems. So like right now I'm going through this, I'm basically at an Alzheimer's doctor where they're like going to do MRIs and tests and try to find out what's wrong with my brain. The problem is when I got hurt, electricity went across my brain. And if I would have had a brain injury, then workers' comp would have had to pay me a whole lot more money. So they did everything they possibly can to make sure that I did not have a brain injury. And one of those things was they want to have a before and after picture. So they want to have a picture of your brain like while you're in the hospital and then being able to compare it years down the line. Well, they never took a picture of my brain in the hospital, so they don't have anything to compare it to. We are getting better at the brain now where you can look at an MRI and go, oh, this is from that. But essentially, you know, one of the interesting things about Elon Musk, I think I heard him talk about this on Rogan one time where he was talking about Neuralink. And like, I'm interested in Neuralink because when I got hurt, I instantly started looking into prosthetics because, you know, common sense. I'm going to need a prosthetic. And one of the things I found was they're not even really trying to make new prosthetics right now. They're doing, you know, some things with 3D printing, but essentially like there's a couple of them that work and they're not going to really try and upgrade these things until they can have a direct brain interface with them. So you'll have a chip here and a chip in your arm and it'll be able to communicate and you'll be able to do exactly what your brain thinks your hand should be doing, not whatever the muscle signals are doing. And I fucking weaved in and weaved out there. I don't remember where I was going with that.
So on the methylene blue.
That's what it was, methylene blue. Anyways.
Careful if you're thinking of taking it. If it's it can cause serotonin.
Yeah, I'm not going to take it. But I'm interested in these things for other people. And also for myself, because if the brain keeps getting worse, then you have to make a trade-off. Like, okay, maybe I try and get off of this, you know, mirtazapine is the one that I take and try this stuff for a month and see how that works.
Yeah.
You'd have to give yourself a few months to get, you know, off of the antidepressants and everything. But like you said, there are edge cases. Like I've got a buddy who's going through a lot of issues right now, drugs and, you know, marital issues and just a lot of things. And I think like an antidepressant could probably help him out a lot. But
let's send him some of my product.
I'm going to give him some. I meant to give him some on, my car was at his house the other day and I was going to send some and I forgot, but I'm going to give him some anyways. Like, I don't, like you said, most people should not be on antidepressants, but there are cases where it's going to be really interesting to see how your product ends up working on things like that. Like if it's going to be something that people could microdose on a daily basis to kind of get themselves in a better position, kind of like what I do with ketamine.
It's used in over-the-counter antidepressants.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm definitely not giving medical advice. Like seriously, people should listen to their bodies. But I just think that antidepressants are way overused. And
absolutely.
If you look at every recent school shooter, they were on SSRIs, and that's scary. Oh, one thing going back to gut health, and this isn't an ad, but I started taking this stuff called Rise. It's a mushroom coffee. It's not cheap, RYZE, and it's not cheap when you look at like a bag is like $40 or something with 30 servings. And you're like, oh, I can get a bag of coffee for whatever. But you compare it to Starbucks or something, it's really cheap compared to that. And after about a week in, like bloat's gone, shits are better than they've ever been. I feel great, drinking less Red Bull. So I recommend it for the folks that have the means for it. Like, check it out. Like, just my pooping so great.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
I've actually, this is not an ad. I started one of the motocross journalists that I guess I could say he's I don't know, whatever. He's been on the show. We kind of talk bullshit back and forth on the internet. Whatever. Some guy that's been on the show. One of his sponsors is this new cream called Nano Extreme, and works pretty fucking good. I've been using it on my arm and my neck because the sling is really killing my neck, and it seems to help a little bit with like the swell. Obviously, I've got a broken humerus. A cream's not gonna fucking heal my humerus, but I do think that it's giving me some relief, like in that area, because there's so much inflammation, and it's just, dude. Like I don't know if you can see it, but my arm is so fucking swollen. It looks like I'm jacked.
You look jacked, bro.
I've got
we started making tallow lotion. I'll send you some from the next batch.
Yeah,
it obviously won't help with inflammation, but it's really nice. All natural, local, grass-fed beef tallow.
Oh, I had another story I was going to tell you too. This just kind of reminded me of. So I'm like having these nasty skin problems. I've got a rash like all over my fucking body, and one of my buddies and my aunt actually, like non-connected, both took ivermectin in the last couple weeks for parasites, just because they thought they had parasites. So they took some fucking horse dewormer. And so I was like asking my doctor about it. Oh, dude, I completely forgot. So I get hurt. I go to the ER. They do a fucking x-ray. And they say, you got a broken shoulder. You need to go to an orthopedic. Great. The orthopedic will call you Monday morning. Did not get a call from the orthopedic. So I call the orthopedic in the afternoon. And they're like, oh, yeah, you need to go to your general practitioner before we can see you. I go, what? Like, yeah. And I go, I have a broken shoulder. What are they going to do for me? Nobody could give me an answer. Nobody could give me an answer. And so literally I had to get up, drive myself to the fucking doctor today. I was pissed off about it this morning. I was tired. I was in a lot of pain. And they were like, how's your mood today? And I go, irritable. Oh, really? Why? And I go, because I should be in bed right now. Oh. Anyways, I asked this doctor, I was like, could these skin problems be parasites? She's like, I don't know, maybe. I was like, because my aunt and my friends have both had parasites recently. They're like, oh, what are they taking for it? She's got a mask on. I go, ivermectin. She goes, oh. And then she just completely changes the subject. Didn't even want to discuss it for a second. It was like I said a dirty word in her presence. And I could see her recoiling through her mask.
I sent you a link for NAC.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Oh
yeah, I bought some of this.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet.
We already talked about this. Yeah. We don't need to rehash it.
I do have another video we can play. Here's Ian Carroll on capitalism, I guess.
Meme that is just too spicy to be real. I'm talking a meme like this one. In 1919, Ford wanted to use extra profits to raise employee wages and employ more people. Dodge sued them, saying a corporation's only responsibility is to increase shareholder value. This set the precedent for current U.S. corporate law. They even provide a source. And what is up with this logo? So just to clarify, one company says, hey, I'm going to pay my employees better because that's the right thing to do. then a different company, their competitor. Objection, Your Honor. Objection. Illegal.
In the
a
Jewiest
really
voice
good
possible.
habit to get in is to just take 10 seconds to Google it. And in this case, they provided a source, but you can just like take a series of keywords in order from whatever you're looking for. And that's usually a good way to find it. And first, I gotta find this Dodge logo. Is this real?
For the people listening, it looks like a Star of David.
Bro, what? Dodge Brothers used a logo that resembled the Star of David, featuring 2 interlocking triangles representing the unity and brotherhood of the Dodge brothers, John Francis Dodge and Horace Eldon Dodge, who were not Jewish. So it was first used in 1914, discontinued in 1938.
Interesting.
Whole
time
articles
period.
about it. What? So am I the only one who's wondering who put up the money to help them found Dodge Motor Company? Because that's quite the coincidence. If you know your history of Henry Ford, they specifically addressed this. One popular belief was that the symbol was chosen to anger their competitor Henry Ford, a notorious anti-Semite, but the Dodge brothers insist that that's not what it was. It was just a coincidence. But anyways, then just type in the information you're looking for. In 1919, Dodge sued Ford over raising employee wages, and voila. There's the Wikipedia article. Holy shit. The Michigan Supreme Court held that Henry Ford had to operate the Ford Motor Company in the interests of its shareholders rather than in a manner for the benefit of his employees or customers. It is often taught as affirming the principle of shareholder primacy in corporate America. As of 2022, in Delaware, the jurisdiction where over half of all U.S. public companies are domiciled, shareholder primacy is still upheld. So yes, you are reading that right. Pfizer is legally obligated to do anything that will increase their shareholder value, even if it comes at the expense of your health, your happiness, your finances, your medical care. The same is true for General Mills with your cereal. The same is true for every public corporation in America. That is why you should support family and founder-owned businesses. Because if you're a public corporation, you only answer to shareholders, and you are legally bound to answer to shareholders. And the biggest shareholder of every public corporation is Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, which is actually just Vanguard and BlackRock because BlackRock owns State Street. And you can probably follow the rabbit hole from there.
So my question is, why is stakeholder capitalism not illegal? How is ESG allowed in this world of shareholder capitalism? I don't get it. It's like they can use it for either way.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When you're at the top, you don't have rules.
Yeah.
Dave Smith kind of went on this rant. Like, he started talking about international law. Like, no, there's no international law.
No.
When they need to use it to justify, drone strikes and stuff, sure, there's international law, but there's no international law where they'll find the United States in breach of it, and if they do, well, fuck them.
Yeah, I heard that we didn't sign on to some UN resolution about Russia and Ukraine today, just for the same thing. It's like, fuck, we're not gonna fucking sign that bullshit. Fuck you.
Yeah, it just said the resolution was
Russia's bad.
Call Russia the aggressor.
Yeah, Russia's bad. Sorry, guys, we're trying to make a deal here. We're not gonna fucking go up and call the big bad bully a douchebag right into his face.
And let's go back to 1998 or 1988, I think, when we made the deal to have the Soviet Union collapse. We said we would not move
1 inch
east of Berlin.
Yeah,
1 inch.
1 inch.
So who's the aggressor?
We've moved a couple inches since then.
They actually made me look at a map and care what Europe looks like. That's a far away from Berlin to where NATO bases are now.
I saw an interesting thing on maps on X, just scrolling the other day, where this woman had a bunch of maps just out on her floor, and essentially, like, every map you look at is bullshit. And so essentially, like, I don't know what time period. I guess it must have been in the 1800s when they were making maps. They had to make every white country bigger than, like, native countries. So, like, South America is like 5 or 7 times larger than Norway in physical area. But when you look at a map, Norway is bigger than South America a lot of the times.
The whole of South America?
Yeah, yeah. It was funny. I don't remember exactly like all of them, but she had examples of all of them. She's just showing all these old maps that she'd been collecting over the fucking years.
It's not like that anymore.
I'm sure it's not.
Yeah.
But it was funny though, because it was like, yeah, that sounds like what we would do.
Yeah.
Fuck these people. Our country's bigger and better.
Let's see if it updated on if the Gulf of America. Oh yeah.
Is it saying Gulf of America? That's bitching.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if we covered this on the show, and I'm not up all the way up on this, but naming it the Gulf of America, renaming it the Gulf of America wasn't just a platitude. Like, this actually had some teeth to it, where I guess Biden had outlawed drilling in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, well,
but he didn't outlaw it in the Gulf of America.
I think that was just
I don't know
people
if that's
trying
true
to
or
frame
not.
Trump.
Could be.
No, because because Biden signed an executive order, and then Trump went in and signed executive orders to cut that out.
You executive order me, I'll executive order you. Which is a kind of a dangerous tit for tat game, but I don't see the Democrats getting into office in the next 4 years. So I don't know.
If they keep this messaging,
now that I
don't
think
see
about
it
it,
for the next 40.
Stephen A. Smith and AOC is probably a decent ticket.
There's no way they're gonna. No, AOC is just so bad.
She's horrible.
No, Stephen Smith is reasonable. There's no way that he picks her as a running mate.
Oh, I don't see.
Unless he's trying
I don't
to suck
think
on
he
them
gets to
socialist
pick.
titties.
Yeah, I don't think he gets to pick. I don't think any of these people get to pick. You know, I think that he's probably.
No, I don't think
captured.
that the party would pick him.
Oh, you don't think they would, huh?
No, absolutely not.
Who do you think they're going to pick? Who's going to be? If they had to do it today, who would it be?
Right now, Kamala's leading in their internal polling.
Did you see that video of her just drunk? Fucking
yeah,
slurring and fucking.
I'm like,
and everybody's
my fellow
oohing and
Americans
eyeing her.
voted against this. My fellow Americans voted against this, and I don't have to listen to it, so I didn't fucking listen.
Yeah.
Right before we came on, or within hours before we came on, news came out that a deal got done with Ukraine.
Oh, cool.
So the preliminary deal is like 50% of their rare earths go to the revenue from that goes to us till we get paid back $500 billion. No troops on the ground from us or NATO or European troops, DMZ, and it looks like the Zelensky is going to come over and sign it. But like,
that's the best we could hope
disappear.
For. He needs
he has
to.
Like I think he has a worse approval rating than the mayor of Chicago, who's at 6%. They were saying that the mayor of Chicago was going to be the next guy that the Democrats propped up, but he's only at 6% in Chicago, so they can't do that.
It's wild that they went from Lori Lightfoot and they're like, "Oh, we're going to make a change." No, you didn't. Yeah. You didn't change a goddamn thing. You just swapped a dick for a puss.
When the fires were happening in California, I think I sent you the video. There was a whole neighborhood of Ukrainian generals, $30 million plus mansions burning. So
my buddy,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say my buddy, his dad is a fire investigator, and he's been training with his dad. So he's been to Southern California a couple times now, and he said that direct energy weapons are within the realm of possibility. That they are investigating for direct energy weapons.
Well, we've seen ships use them. We looked at a video. I don't know if you sent it to me.
But he said that they are absolutely taking it seriously. Like because I kind of like was asking him like, what do you guys think about the direct energy weapons? And I thought he was going to kind of laugh me off. And he's like, oh yeah, no, that the blue buildings and like that shit's all weird. And they think that, he said Maui especially, like they think that Maui is definitely a possibility. Not so much in Southern California, because Southern California was just a disaster. Fucking disaster.
So,
anyways,
let's close on the NSA private server. Did you see this?
I just got the
wrong link.
I just got it.
It's just
yeah. Okay.
So there was is a NSA like just like a deep state or intelligence agency chat server, and they were talking all sorts of wild shit about I hope I have a hermaphrodite baby to push forward trans issues, talking about their fetishes, like just like the shit that the media has been pushing on us for however long,
debauchery,
whatever, that ideology is that far set inside of our intelligence agencies. Tulsi told them that they're all getting fired and all that, but
good.
It's insane how deep that runs. Like, we just need to start it all over, hit a reset, unplug, replug.
Elon's right about it being a brain disease. What does he call it? Like I don't remember what he called it. A mind virus. Like, it is, and it's spreading like fucking crazy, and it's on freedom-loving Americans to fucking stamp this out before it gets any stronger. Like, this has got to go. This whole debaucherous ideology of fucking hedonism just has to go. It cannot be allowed to be the driving force of this world, which is what the United States government is. It's that if anybody's on the wheel right now, it's the United States intelligence, and we cannot have these fuckers just marrying their horses.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what we're looking at right now, is these guys are marrying their horses.
Let's close out on a positive note for America and patriots. I went to this bar crawl Saturday night with my wife and just some people in the community. My wife saw this incident take place, but this one woman was like, can we just out of the blue, can we stop talking about how great Elon Musk is doing? And starts ranting. And this guy goes, say something nice about Elon Musk. She goes, he goes, no, I'm not. We're not going to continue this conversation unless you say something nice about Elon Musk. And like, more people need to do shit like that. I just avoid those conversations. But yeah, good for him. Good for America. And I think it's turning.
I think you're right. All right, let's get out of here. I made it. I'm on double the medications as normal, so I'm a little loopy. We did it.